So in today's video, we're actually going to go over the network/event strategy for tough markets. So obviously in an ideal world, we would not have to operate in tough markets. We wouldn't want to, fight the uphill battle. We want to seek opportunities in those markets that are thriving. To be part of the gold rush with these markets. There's certain markets right now, I know in the US, the UK and Australia, that are just thriving so much more than other markets, and it just makes sense to position yourself in those markets. However, starting the cycle of finding candidates to go into that market and penetrate new markets can be somewhat slow. You probably need to consider a few things. It's not just going to be an overnight process. And ultimately, our job is to find opportunities in any market, no matter how tough. Okay. So what we've got here is one of the strategies you can use for markets that seem to be really struggling right now. And if you're doing direct outreach and getting zero results, or just relying on your network and referrals, then this is the one to be paying attention to. So before I go into the strategy, it's really, really important to understand how this actually works, right? So in any market, people only trust you and work with you if you have a higher perceived status than the rest of your competitors. If everyone's on a level playing field, it'll be impossible to decide who to work with, and it'll just be, the market will be shared evenly, perfectly evenly. But that's not how it works. There's certain players that have big market share. There's a lot of players that have very little market share. What is the reason for that? It's perceived status, right? So the chances are all of your competitors are reaching out to your dream clients with, direct outreach messages, like direct offers, and offering them a dream, but the prospective client can only choose one of you. So our job is to make them pick you, right? They usually make that decision based off what we've seen, sending millions of emails across the, course of our career. They usually go with the one that has the highest perceived status, okay? As we can see by this very, very basic diagram that I've depicted here, the higher your perceived status, the higher likelihood the client will be working with you, okay? The lower your perceived status, the lower the client would be likely to work with you. For example, if you have no website, if you've never posted on LinkedIn, if you're just not in a rude way like a nobody in business, not many clients are going to work with you. You look at all the big players, they have an audience, they have great branding, and they have a great product. This is what we want, okay? That's how we get higher perceived status. Now, of course, those things like branding, website, product, that's stuff that takes a little bit of time to get into play. So what we want to do is find hacks like this that make us seem higher perceived status than the rest of the market, so we can take more market share. So what does the status actually come down to? It usually comes down to three things: trusting, liking, and knowing us, okay? We need to get people to trust us, we need to get people to like us, and we need to get people to know us. So this strategy that we're going to go through today is going to address all of those, okay? Because ultimately, humans crave for intimate connections, and we trust those that do the same as us, right? It's, since the dawn of human time, there's been groups of people who have come together based off common interest or common goals. Okay, this might seem like a reach, I'm going off topic here, but I'm not, honestly. Having a common connection with someone is huge in the game of acquiring clients. So important, and it's how you acquire your clients if you're currently relying on your network or referrals. It's because you have connections with these people. They trust you, they like you, and they know you. Okay, so we just need to do this at scale. All right, so here's how the strategy actually works. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign up for as many events in your niche as you can. Right, we're going to do real life events, we're going to do LinkedIn events, we're going to do webinars, we're going to find absolutely everything. So for this example, let's look at biotech. Right, so let's just type in biotech events 2024. Let's just literally search in Google. So we've got, I'll let it take my location. So conferences and biotech. Let's have a look at this one. I always skip past the advertising. So let's go in here, and in the meantime, I'm going to load up LinkedIn so we can have a look at LinkedIn events as well. So let's have a look. Okay, so we've got the second global meet on nanotechnology, international. So these are big ones. These are big conferences, right? So maybe I want to type in networking events. Biotech networking events 2024. Okay. Oh, maybe it is these conferences. So basically, I'd want to sign up for these if you can. Okay. If not, at the very least, find maybe this page on Facebook. Find the Biotech X page on Facebook, and then we'll find all the people, and we'll be able to scrape all the people that are currently interacting with that page, right? The whole goal here is to acquire data and acquire prospective clients who know about these events or maybe are attending these events. It's much better if they're attending them, but we can't guarantee they'll be attending them. So if we go to LinkedIn as well and we have a look at this, so what we can do is type in biotechnology, and if we go to events here, we'll see some events. So we've got the 10th International Meeting on Recent Advances in Plant Biotechnology. I usually look for ones that have a lot of attendees, right? So this one could be one, International Conference of Agriculture and Biological Science. Okay, so the reason why we want to search for these is these are pools of our ideal clients, right? They're hubs where our ideal client hangs out, and we can find them at scale. Instead of having to use like LinkedIn all the time or Apollo, we can find them and we can use this bit of relevance we've got to reach out to them. So we've got a list here, perfect. Now what we can do, step 2 is download and scrape the data of the list of attendees, okay? I've also got a little pro tip. As you're signing up for these events, use a separate email so you don't get flooded with promotional stuff and you have to unsubscribe from everything. We find it much easier to just use a completely different email. So once you've signed up for them all, right, you found all the ones in your space that are interesting. If you can't attend them, or you know they're out of your budget to attend them, then just see if you can get in contact with the owners and see if we can get some sort of list out of it. Okay, it's well worth sending the message. But for this example, if I go back to here, then I see we've got 167 attendees. Now I can't see the attendees yet, so what I need to do is click attend, and then all of the attendees will be accessible to me. Cool, so we've got 168 attendees, and we have all of these people, right? Okay, so obviously some of them are going to be students, some of them are going to be not the right people. So what we do, and this is a very small list, so it might not have as many contacts as we want, but I would always go into here, so into filters, and we can start putting in these filters. Now what we do is a Boolean search. So we want to do CEO or founder or owner or VP, for example, and it's going to be much easier to find the right people. So you can play with these keywords. Once again, this is a very small event, and it looks like the majority of these contacts, for example, are from India. So you could find events that are based in the US, but we've got a CEO and founder here, right? And this is potentially someone we could contact. Hey, saw you were eventing the event. What did you look to get out of it? What are you looking to get out of the event? You know, we're going to have some scripts that we're going to write here as well, but it'll be more of an open conversational approach. But because you're also attending the event, they'll see that you're attending the event. If you message them on LinkedIn, it'll be much, much easier to get that response out of them, okay? You can also do this at scale. So if we go to a really big list, like I think there was an event that had maybe 2,000 people, we can scrape all of these attendees, and then of course filter to find the right people. And attendees, biotechnologies might be a funny example. If we were just doing something like, tech in general, it would be much easier. We've also got a link here on Eventbrite, so we can see this is the event. Okay, awesome. So let's see if we can attend here and get access to all of these. Submit this. Now we'll have access to all of these attendees. So, awesome. Right, so we've got 2,000 attendees here. Okay, we've got founders, CEOs. Fantastic. Okay, from the UK as well. So that's one way we can do it. Obviously, we want to build as many lists as possible. You may have already been to lists in the past, to events in the past that you have lists of. These will be useful. We'll just clean the email addresses and, of course, reference the fact that we found them on XYZ list. Even if it's really old, it's still worth doing it. We'll just say, look, we found you on this list. For an event we attended a couple of years ago, just wondering, you still, attending networking events? It'd be great to catch up, that sort of thing. But it's all around finding the list, right? And of course, the third bit is marketing out to these contacts. I've already touched on this, but we want to make sure that they know we're reaching out because it's the event, right? And that's like the common ground here. It's not, hey, so you're hiring. The event way will stand out, like saying, oh, did you attend the event a few months ago? Did you attend the, conference, the Biotechnology 2024 conference a few months ago. Not sure if I bumped into you or not, but I just wanted to send you this quick message. Would you be open to connecting on LinkedIn, potentially have a short conversation next week about, the findings from the conference, right? Opening the door. Obviously, if you want to go very direct, if you have loads of contacts and loads of lists, then you can go more direct and just turn them into actual qualified calls. But this is a great way of starting conversations, right? So that's a little screenshot of how we find the right contacts. We do the same for podcasts. So say there's a podcast in your space. So for example, let's just say if I put in recruitment podcasts, okay? We've got loads here. I didn't realise there were that many, to be honest. Okay, so what we can do here with the recruitment podcasts is, let's just go see if we can go to one on Spotify. And what I can do is, what you want to do is obviously find podcasts in your space that potentially have had guests on, right? So maybe this podcast is just this one contact speaking themselves, but if we can find ones that actually regularly have guests on, then it'll be much easier for us to scrape this data. So we've got a podcast here, right? I'm going to put it into Google. What we want to do is put this in here, find the Spotify, and we've got the Spotify list, and this has got all of the guests that have been on the podcast. This is a really, really advanced strategy, and this will absolutely crush it if you use this. So wait for this to load. But once we have this website, look, we've got all of these people, we've got all these names that of people that have been on the podcast, right? So we can do load more episodes. Okay, we can just load this. What we can do here is also use Instant Data Scraper to scrape this data. Okay, so what we've got, if I locate next button, and hopefully this will work. Let's have a look. Then what we can do is start crawling all of this data, right? Start scraping all of this. So there we go, perfect. So like we've scraped data. It looks like it's come to an end of how many it's found. But nonetheless, if I could just continue to press this button, it should scrape more data. There we go. So for some examples, you may have to do this manually. If I just do this, then what I can do is basically scroll right to the bottom, and we'll have all of this data that we can use, which we can then clean up in for example, ChatGPT. So we've got Christopher Slade here. So what I'd do is I'd download this as a CSV, put it into Google Sheets or Clay, and say extract the name from this file. We could probably even do this with just super basic GPT. Then what we've got is a name of all of these contacts which have been on a podcast in the space, which matches our criteria perfectly. Okay, like we have all of them and we know what exact podcast they've been on. So we can say, hey, just listen to your episode on XYZ podcast. Awesome that you're on there, and then go into a bit of a pitch and an offer. We can really probably go crazy with this on with AI, because what AI can do now, ChatGPT 4.0, if you give it a YouTube link, it can also watch YouTube videos. So what we can do is create a CSV file of podcast names, podcast titles that have been on, and then YouTube links of the podcast, and get ChatGPT to create personalized messages about the actual context of the podcast, what they've actually exactly said, without you having to watch any of them. Once again, very advanced, but this is the sort of thing you have to do in a tough market to make it work. So hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been useful. If you've got any